Today, we're going to get into something really fascinating from the world of psychology. It's a concept that might just explain a whole lot about why our brains do what they do. We're talking about the architecture of protection mode. So, let me ask you something. Do you ever find yourself just instantly pushing back against advice, even when a part of you knows it's actually pretty good? Or how about this? Do you ever spend, hours replaying a conversation in your head, just picking it apart, looking for every little flaw? If you're nodding along, trust me, you are not alone. This is super common. Now, it's so easy to just label that stuff as being, difficult or stubborn, or just chalk it all up to anxiety. But what psychology shows us is that there's something way more interesting going on under the surface. It's not just a personality quirk, it's a whole system. And that system? It's called protection mode. Now, here's the absolute key takeaway. This is not a flaw in who you are. In fact, think of it more like a highly advanced feature that your brain designed for one very, very specific reason: to keep you safe. So what is it really? Well, protection mode is basically a survival state. It's that moment when your brain flips a switch, and its number one priority is no longer growth or learning, but pure, simple safety. It takes all your best tools, your intelligence, your habits, and turns them into these shields to defend against whatever it thinks is a threat. And that threat could be anything from rejection, to failure, to just losing control. And this really lays out the two different ways we can operate. On one side, you have protection mode, where you're pretty much just reacting to everything that comes at you. You're in survival mode. But the other side, what we can call power mode, is where you're the one deciding your next move. It's the huge difference between just surviving day to day and actually thriving. Getting that difference is everything. Okay, so how do you even know if your brain is stuck in this defense mode? Well, turns out there are 5 really clear telltale signs. You can think of them as clues, helping you decode the unique defense architecture that your own brain is built.
So, the first sign has a kind of fancy name. It's called psychological reactance. But all it really means is that immediate gut-level no you feel the second somebody tells you what to do.
And here's what's actually going on. When your brain hears "you should do this," it doesn't just hear a suggestion. It can hear a threat to its independence, to its autonomy. And so its automatic defense is to just push back hard, to get that feeling of freedom back.
And this is where you see the two sides of the coin. I mean, on one hand, it's kind of like a superpower, right? You're defending your autonomy, your self-worth, but the cost? Well, it can be pretty high. You end up rejecting advice that could actually help you and feeling like nobody really gets you.
All right, on to sign number 2, constant mental simulations. This is basically when you take your amazing analytical brain and weaponize it, using overthinking as a shield to protect you from the future. This quote just absolutely nails it. Your brain isn't just worrying for no reason. It's actively trying to predict its way out of danger. It runs these endless what-if scenarios, trying to prepare for every single bad thing that might happen, even if it's totally unlikely.
And here we go again with that trade-off. The superpower here is incredible. You can spot flaws and potential problems that literally everyone else misses. But the cost? Man, it's just this constant humming anxiety and total mental exhaustion. Your brain never ever gets a break.
Let's get into the third sign, and this is one that I think a lot of high achievers are going to recognize. It's the shield of hyper-independence. This is that bone-deep refusal to ask for help, even when you're completely drowning. So where does this even come from? Well, a lot of the time, the roots go all the way back to childhood. It's a coping skill you learn to avoid feeling like a burden. Or maybe it's something that develops when you felt unchosen, and you learned early on that the only person you could really count on was yourself.
And what's so wild about this one is the gap between how it looks and how it feels. From the outside, it looks like this incredible strength, this amazing self-reliance. But on the inside, what it feels like is just expecting to be disappointed by people. It's a defense built on that expectation.
All right, coming in at number 4 is a much more subtle one. It's lowering expectations. This is when you treat big, important moments, your own birthday, a huge accomplishment, like they're no big deal, just another day.
And, the logic behind this is actually pretty brilliant from your brain's point of view. If you've had experiences where getting your hopes up has just led to disappointment or pain, well, your brain adapts. It learns that the safest bet is to just lower those expectations all the way to 0. Because if you expect nothing, you can't be disappointed. It's a preemptive strike against getting hurt.
And that brings us to the fifth and final sign, and wow, is this one relevant today. It's chronic escape behavior. This is that habit of using endless distraction, your phone, binge watching, as a way to hide from any and all discomfort.
See, this isn't just you being lazy. There's real brain chemistry going on here. Your brain gets caught in what you could call the dopamine trap. That little hit of reward you get from the next scroll, the next video, that's predictable and easy. And it feels so much safer than the anxiety of actually facing that big task you haven't started.
Okay, so just being able to see these 5 signs in yourself, that is the huge first step. Because once you can see the architecture, you can actually start to change it. So let's talk about how we move from a place of fear to a place of power, how we get out of reacting and get back to deciding.
The single most powerful tool for this is something called metacognition. Now, don't let the fancy name scare you. All it means is thinking about your thinking. It's that moment you catch yourself spiraling and you can just step back and say, oh, look at that. There's my brain doing that simulation thing again. Just by observing your own thought patterns, without judgment, you create a little bit of space. And in that space, you can choose a different response. That's how you start building a more powerful mind.
And that brings us to the final and maybe most important part, choosing your next move. Because look, the goal here isn't to just tear down all your defenses. It's to understand the massive difference between a shield that protects you and a cage that traps you.
And this quote just says it all perfectly. Real power isn't about being the loudest person in the room or being totally invulnerable. It's about cognitive flexibility. It's having the wisdom to know when you do need to protect yourself and having the courage to know when it's safe to let those shields down so you can really connect with the world.
So, the question I want to leave you with is a simple one. I want you to take an honest look at your own patterns, at your own architecture of protection, and just ask yourself, are your shields really serving you, or have they become